The MG Gloster. It's all about offering that little bit extra. It's a little bit bigger, a little bit more powerful, and better equipped than all of its premium SUV rivals. Now, we've already reviewed this car and you can watch the full video by clicking on the link above. But today, we're here for a different reason. Today, I'm here to off-road test the Gloster. And incidentally, we're at the same place where we off-road tested the Fortuner and Endeavour earlier as well. You can watch that full video by clicking on the link above. So, let's hit the off-road track. The MG Gloster is powered by a twin-turbo 2-liter diesel engine that provides an impressive 480 Nm of peak torque. This is spread between 1,500 rpm to 2,400 rpm. Now the Gloster is a full-time 4-wheel drive vehicle apart from an eco mode. So to go off-roading, you really don't have to do much. In this case, I switched the drive mode to sand and simply headed off. My only apprehension being that the Gloster does look like it sits fairly low for an SUV, but looks can be deceptive, and I found this as a pleasant surprise right from the first obstacle, which was an axle bender. Despite those low air diffuser flaps in front of the front tires, there was no contact. Under regular circumstances, there is great grip in this drive mode, but as I approached the axle bender, there was some slip from the wheels. So as the SUV struggled a bit to climb up, I engaged rock mode on the terrain selector and locked the rear differential. Now rock mode ensures that the 4-wheel drive transfer case goes into 4-wheel drive low. After this, it was a cakewalk for the Gloster to do a to and fro run across the axle benders and over another set of smaller ones. Next up was the ramp over test, and this included a set of rather deep ruts. But here again, the 4-wheel drive low mode was mighty impressive, and more than anything, it's also the electronics of this SUV combined with the huge 480 Nm of peak torque that helps this SUV provide such accurate and continuous power to the wheels. This in turn allows the Gloster to simply waltz over these obstacles. Now what especially stands out with the Gloster is the degree of control that the driver has. The only letdown here is the light and vague steering wheel. This can leave you second guessing about how much steering angle you are feeding to the tires. This can be tricky and is very, very important to keep a vehicle stable over tricky obstacles. Next up was a set of steep hill climb and descent obstacles. The climb up in 4-wheel drive high was very impressive as the Gloster simply makes scaling such steep obstacles very easy. And throttle inputs feel immediate and accurate. Now once I was parked over the ramp over of the obstacle, I was asked to use hill descent control. But at the same time, I was to always ensure that I stayed in charge of braking. As the Gloster dropped down the steep incline, I was always manually controlling the brakes and the SUV went down smoothly. But because of my manual braking, I didn't really feel the system override my inputs. Next up was the chicken hole test. Here, the Gloster again provided some steep angles for photography, but its soft steering makes it difficult to gauge the amount of steering input that's being fed in. Regardless, I was quite surprised that the low set footrests didn't come into contact anywhere. But then again, for this drive, MG has given the track a once-over to make it suitable for the Gloster. And I suspect these footrests will definitely bend over tough off-road obstacles, given that the long wheelbase and ground clearance definitely result in a modest breakover angle. The side angle test for the Gloster at a highest of 35 degrees once again showcased the off-road balance and poise of this SUV, as it makes it so easy to control the vehicle over the steep incline where you are figuratively sitting on the door pad at a certain point, given how tilted the SUV is over this obstacle. The last test was a water wading test that was fairly fun and showcased how unfazed the SUV is while wading through high water, although the official wading depth of the Gloster hasn't been revealed yet. Now when I came here today, I didn't know quite what to expect from the Gloster. As I've mentioned, I've driven over this circuit in the Endeavour, Fortuner and the Alturas as well. But when it comes to this car, well, you see its four-wheel drive system. It's very easy to use, but even in low range, it feels very refined and I was really impressed. It's just so easy to drive this thing off-road. You know, when it comes to off-roading, especially over steep inclines, momentum is key. You always want to have enough momentum to keep yourself going. But in this car, it's entirely different. It's huge 480 Newton meters of torque. Combined with a very capable software and hardware of this four-wheel drive SUV, you can park at a very steep incline and just drive ahead after that on your own by gently depressing the accelerator pedal. It's truly impressive. It's absolutely effortless. This is something I did not expect. I know this car has a Borg Warner transfer case and it shows that pedigree. It is a properly capable car. So when it comes to throttle inputs, it's very intelligent, the Gloster's powertrain, and that's key when it comes to off-roading. So the slightest throttle input results in very accurate wheel movements. Now that aside, the other important bit, suspension. It's a proper ladder frame chassis and it's got very decent travel in its suspension. Now it's all about the angles that you approach with. So provided you approach tricky off-road obstacles correctly in the Gloster, you will get over them without bending those footsteps. Now this car, internationally, it has two 10mm of ground clearance, which is 15 mm lower than the Fortuner and Endeavour. But having said that, you know, the India specs for this car are not out, so we don't know the approach, departure and ramp over angles. But having driven around this circuit, which has been carved out for the Gloster, I've seen how capable it is, and I have to say that it is very impressive off-road. So the Gloster then, well, it's definitely here to give very stiff competition to established rivals such as the Toyota Fortuner and Ford Endeavour. Now on the road, we know what it feels like, what it drives like. But today we've seen the off-road capabilities and I have to say it's there with the big shots.